All right, introduction. It was summer 2021. By all objective measures, my life was in perfect order. I had recently married that last May. I was traveling the country with my new beautiful wife, Erica. I was running Turning Point USA. Life on the outside was as good as it gets, but inside there was a battle brewing. I was fatigued, tired, and spiritually confused. Since spring 2020, I was nonstop, hyper-aggressive fight mode. The lockdowns, which I spoke about from the very beginning, only intensified after Joe Biden became president. I found myself in the trenches in summer 2021 looking for a respite, a lifeline. I found myself at the Baccarat Hotel in New York City just a few days before the 4th of July. My mental clarity was dulled, and I was physically exhausted and seeking advice. After a long day of TV interviews and donor meetings, I had a late lunch with a dear friend and Turning Point USA board member, David Engelhart. David is a very wise man, pastor of King's Church in New York City, and someone I am able to confide in when things get tough. I told him I was hitting a wall. I had more obligations and time, and I was drinking 8 cups of coffee a day just to stay afloat. I went to him looking for a sympathetic ear and, more hopefully, a piece of advice that could get me out of the rut I was in. David heard all my concerns and listened intently, internalized it all, and plainly said, "Are you honoring the Sabbath?" I laughed. I'm a close friend and student of Dennis Prager, and for years I heard him brag about how he honors the Sabbath and how it's the best part of his week. At times I found myself almost jealous of Dennis while listening to his fireside chats. I am too busy for that, I would say to myself when Dennis would air his monologues touting the biblical and moral importance of honoring the Sabbath. Over time, I secretly had Shabbat envy. I replied to David, "No, I really don't have time for that. I am running 3 different companies and have 300 people on payroll. I have to raise $50 million a year and do 3 hours of radio a day. I will honor God by working harder, not by resting a day." David then paused and rebutted, "I think you need to drop everything for a day for God. God will honor that. Look at it as a test of your faith." I continued to argue with him, but deep down, I felt a strong conviction of the Holy Spirit. I knew he had struck a chord. I knew he had a special word for me and that it was my flesh resisting it. "Do you mean just stopping?" I muttered. "Try it for a month. See what it does for your life. Jesus told us if we love him to follow his commands." We changed the subject, but looking back many years ago, I couldn't tell you a single other thing we spoke about that night. I went up to my hotel room and started finding every single Bible verse that mentioned the